The shot split the air before anyone even had time to scream, and Luke Carson didn't think he just moved his body making the call before his mind could catch up. The bullet meant for a little girl finding his side instead. And she was safe, and he was bleeding, and an hour later you could hear it, the low, rolling thunder of 100 Harleys coming in from every direction toward the hospital like a storm you can't outrun. Luke hadn't planned on being there that morning. He was just passing through Main Street, stopping for a coffee before heading north, the sunlight sharp, the air carrying that faint tang of gasoline that comes after a morning's worth of traffic. He was leaning on a parking meter, gloved hands around the paper top, when he saw a man across the street pacing, twitchy, eyes locked on something. Luke followed the gaze and saw her, a little girl in a pink jacket, maybe 6, balloon in one hand, waiting outside the bakery while her mother ducked inside. Then the man's jacket shifted, and Luke caught the glint of metal, and there was no weighing options, no time for words. Coffee hit the sidewalk, his boots hit the pavement, and the gunshot cracked the morning open. The balloon slipped from her hand as the song bounced off brick, birds scattering into the cold blue sky. Luke was down on one knee, hand clamped to his side, and the only thing in his world for that moment was her, those wide, frozen eyes staring back. "You okay?" he asked, voice low, though he could already feel the heat of his own blood spreading. Sirens wailed somewhere far off. He didn't know her name, she didn't know his, but she was alive and that was enough. By the time the paramedics had him under the bright lights, cutting away his vest, one of them had seen the patch wings call Hell's Angels, and Luke caught the flicker in his eyes. People saw the patch before they saw the man, but patches don't step into the path of a bullet, brothers do. Out on the road, news doesn't travel by phone, it rides on the wind, through hands that know when to grip the throttle. Within the hour, his brothers knew. Briggs was the first to show, walking into the waiting room without a word, helmet in hand. Then 2 more, then 6, then the steady stream until the air itself felt different, thicker, charged. Outside, the curb filled with chrome, not blocking, not shouting, just standing like sentinels. People in passing cars slowed, staring. Inside, the little girl sat on her mother's lap, sipping juice, glancing at the patches on the men's backs. No fear, just that odd comfort you feel when someone's presence makes the ground steadier under your feet. Luke drifted in and out under the surgeon's hands. The bullet had missed anything vital by less than an inch. Luck, they called it. Luke called it timing. When he came to, Briggs was there, telling him the kid was fine and that the whole family was outside, meaning his family. The kind bound by the road. The child came in with a crayon drawing Luke on a big bike, her with pigtails beside him. "You got my bike just right," he said, and she smiled, saying, "Mama says you're a hero." He shook his head. "Heroes don't have speeding tickets." She just studied him like she could see past the patch, past the scar forming under the bandages. "I think you're still one," she said. And that landed somewhere deep. The hours bled into rain, and the brothers didn't leave. Through the glass, they were just shapes against wet chrome, smoke curling under cupped hands. "They've been here all night," a nurse whispered. "No, with him," another corrected. Luke didn't need to look to know they were still there. It wasn't about making a scene, it was about keeping watch, same as they did on the road, mile after mile. Sheriff Holt showed before dusk, his eyes moving over the lineup of bikes. "You planning to stay all night?" he asked Briggs. "As long as he's inside, we're out here," came the reply. The sheriff didn't like 100 bikers outside his hospital, but he didn't tell them to leave either. Days passed. Luke took his first painful steps to the window, saw the row still stretching down the block, faces changing as riders rotated in, the vigil unbroken. When the doctor finally cleared him to leave, Briggs carried his bag, Mac held the door, and outside the engines fired, not in a roar but in a single rolling heartbeat. Sophie, her name, ran to him, wrapping her arms around his waist. "You didn't forget," he told her. "Told you I wouldn't." His Harley was waiting at the front, cleaned, fueled, grips replaced. He didn't ride off just yet, just sat there long enough to let the idol settle deep in his chest, a promise to himself. The ride home took the long way, 20 miles of curves and open fields. Sophie and her mother watched from a hilltop as the formation swept past, her little hand waving until they vanished from sight. 2 weeks later, Luke found a bench near Main Street, polished wood, a plaque that read "For the man who didn't think twice," and Sophie's drawing laminated on the seat. He didn't know who put it there. Could have been the brothers. Could have been her mom. Could have been someone who just wanted the story to outlast the news cycle. He sat until the streetlights came on, watching people pause, read, and walk on. He didn't need them to know it was him. When spring came early, Luke rode his Harley out without a destination, sliding the crayon drawing and the note from Sophie's mom into the side bag. The engine came alive, the wind lifting that weight from his shoulders. Somewhere out there, he knew, another choice would come, maybe not a bullet, maybe not a child, but something that mattered in the space between seeing and moving. And when it did, he already knew what he'd do. Some roads you ride for yourself. Some you ride so no one has to walk alone. And if this story stays with you, remember, bravery isn't about hunting danger. It's about moving when someone else can't. So tell me, what would you have done? Luke had been back on the road for about 3 months when it happened again, not the same way, not with gunfire, but in that split-second kind of moment where you either move or you freeze, and moving changes everything. It was early evening, the sky painted in that deep orange that makes the asphalt glow, and Luke was riding back from a solo trip through the hills, letting the wind clear out the noise in his head. He had the crayon drawing still folded in his saddlebag, always carried it, like a reminder that some moments were worth bleeding for. He was cruising through a stretch of highway where the trees hung low over the road, when up ahead he caught the glint of something, metal, maybe, but too close to the ground. As he got nearer, he realized it wasn't just debris, it was a motorcycle, down on its side in the gravel shoulder, its headlights still faintly glowing. A figure was lying half under it, one boot twitching weakly. Luke pulled over hard, gravel spitting under his tires, heart already kicking into a faster gear. The rider was young, maybe early 20s, jacket shredded at the elbow, helmet visor cracked clean through. "Hey, stay still," Luke said, kneeling down, hands steady but voice firm. The kid's breathing was fast and shallow, panic mixing with pain. "You, with them?" The kid managed to whisper, as starting to the patch on Luke's vest. Luke almost smiled. "Doesn't matter right now. What matters is you're not bleeding out on my watch." He managed to lift the bag enough to free the rider's leg. It was badly twisted, but the kid was conscious. That's when Luke heard it, another engine, faint but getting closer, fast. And then a second one, louder. In seconds, 2 pickup trucks came barreling around the bend, dust kicking up behind them. They didn't slow down when they saw Luke. Something in their posture told Luke this wasn't just bad luck. And when one of the trucks stopped short in the middle of the road, blocking the lane, his gut told him exactly what this was: unfinished business that had caught up to the wrong place at the wrong time. The bigger of the 2 men who stepped out didn't look at Luke first, he looked at the kid. "Didn't think we'd find you this quick," he said, voice low and mean. Luke could see the kid's jaw tighten. "Friend of yours?" Luke asked, straightening up slowly. The kid shook his head. "Not even close." Luke stepped between them without thinking, the same way he'd stepped in front of Sophie months ago. Only this time, no bullet, no crowd, just an open stretch of road and 3 men who didn't like the idea of someone getting in their way. One of the trucks revved behind them, like a warning. Luke kept his voice even. "You're gonna want to leave." The bigger man grinned. "Or what?" Luke didn't bother answering because right then, like the song had been cued by fate itself, came that rumble. Not one bike this time, 5. Briggs in the lead. Mac right behind him. The kind of arrival that turns an empty road into a stage. The trucks didn't stick around. By the time Briggs killed his engine, the dust from their retreat was already settling. what the hell did you get into? Briggs asked. Ain't the kid, not me, Luke said. Him. The kid looked between them, confusion and relief fighting for space on his face. Why'd you stop? He asked quietly. Luke shrugged. Why wouldn't I? They got the bike upright and loaded the kid into Mac's sidecar, heading for the nearest ER. On the ride, Luke didn't say much, but he kept thinking about that first moment on Main Street, how fast a day can turn into something you carry for the rest of your life. The kid's name was Evan. No family nearby, no one to call. The trouble he'd been in wasn't over, not by a long shot. Luke didn't owe him anything, but that didn't stop him from walking into the hospital waiting room later that night and seeing Evan sitting there, like in a cast, looking more lost than hurt. You right? Evan asked. Luke nodded once. Then, can I ride with you? Just once. Luke didn't answer right away. Outside, he could hear the engine's brakes and the others waiting like they always did. Finally, he said, we'll see. And just like with Sophie, something in his tone promised more than the words admitted. By the time they rolled out of that parking lot, the kid was watching from the window, and Luke knew whether it was a 6-year-old with a balloon or a young rider in over his head. Some roads just keep putting people in your path. And when they do, you move. Every time.